Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you've ever felt completely trapped in a difficult, quiet season, you know exactly how heavy that can be. We've all been there, right? That time when everything in life just feels kind of stagnant, confusing, and maybe even a little pointless. Well, today, we're unpacking a really fascinating perspective that completely flips the script on these tough times. We're going to explore how to find some profound meaning in those frustrating seasons and uncover the hidden signs that something much bigger is actually happening behind the scenes. So, have you ever prayed, believed and waited, yet everything still feels totally stuck? Look, it's a deeply painful and isolating place to be, and we just have to acknowledge that up front. When you're putting in the spiritual and emotional work and you're met with nothing but silence or roadblocks, well, it's incredibly validating to hear that your feelings of frustration and even abandonment are completely normal. Honestly, it truly feels like you're just being ignored. But here is where we introduce the absolute core paradigm shift of this explainer. Punishment versus preparation. When we're struggling, our default human setting is almost always to assume we've done something wrong, that we're being punished by life or by God. But what if that feeling of painful punishment is actually a highly purposeful period of preparation? What if you aren't being sidelined at all, but instead you're being readied for something way greater? Let's break down the 5 distinct signs that point to exactly this kind of preparation. Okay, let's dive into this first sign, removing what no longer serves you. When you're in a real season of preparation, you might start noticing relationships shifting or doors just suddenly closing out of nowhere. And while that definitely feels like a huge loss, it's actually a necessary clearing of your path. It's perfectly captured in this concept of spiritual pruning from the book of John. Notice the action here, removing branches that do not bear fruit and pruning the ones that do, specifically so they can bear more fruit. God actually removes the things in our lives that might be super comfortable but are ultimately unfruitful. It hurts when things are taken away, for sure, but the whole purpose is to make critical room for what's coming next. Now, moving right along to sign 2, stretching your capacity through pressure. You see, the seasons that lead up to greatness rarely ever feel easy. They test your patience and your character right down to the core.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that pressure works, using a 4-step progression from the book of Romans. It shows a highly systematic building process. It starts with suffering, or pressure, which essentially forces you to develop perseverance. Then, that perseverance forges really strong character, and ultimately, that character blossoms into lasting hope. So the pressure isn't just random. It's an incredibly structured process that systematically builds you up for your future.
So the really crucial takeaway here is this powerful contrast, breaking you versus expanding you. Because when you are right in the thick of a hard season, that intense pressure absolutely feels like it's just breaking you down. But the reframe we're talking about today is that this necessary process is actually expanding your capacity. Think about it. You literally cannot hold greater blessings, greater responsibilities, or a greater purpose if you haven't been expanded first to handle them. That brings us to sign number 3, shifting your desires. Have you noticed lately that the things that once excited you just don't hold the exact same pull anymore? Suddenly, you begin to care significantly more about finding real purpose and having depth in your life, rather than just seeking comfort or keeping up appearances. Your internal compass is recalibrating.
Let's look at this well-known psalm. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Now, a lot of people mistakenly read this as a kind of cosmic wish-granting mechanism, like a genie in a bottle. But in the context of our explainer today, it's actually a promise of alignment. It means that as you lean into this quiet season, your heart's desires will begin to beautifully align with His will. Those shifting desires, they're actual proof that you are being internally prepared for a major external change.
Next up is sign 4, teaching you in the waiting. For anyone out there currently trapped in a waiting season, it feels agonizingly unproductive, right? But this waiting period is specifically designed for vital, unrushable lessons. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Isaiah reframes the very source of your energy. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. Finding peace in His presence, rather than constantly trying to manipulate your external circumstances, is what actually builds essential, enduring strength. You aren't just sitting around twiddling your thumbs. You are actively being renewed so you can absolutely soar when the time is right. Because waiting is not wasted time. It is formation time. In our super fast-paced, productivity-obsessed world, we almost always equate stillness with failure. But hear this, what is being quietly built in you right now, during the wait, is every bit as important as what is being built for you out there in the world. Which leads us perfectly into the 5th and arguably most powerful sign, drawing you closer to Him. Amidst all the silence and uncertainty, you might suddenly find yourself with this undeniable hunger and reliance on God.
As this quote from James perfectly outlines, draw near to God and He will draw near to you. But why does this usually happen during the hardest times? Well, it's because the upcoming assignment in your life requires a level of deep intimacy and spiritual maturity that a comfortable, easy season simply cannot produce. Basically, God wants to know you deeply and build a foundational reliance with you before He uses you greatly.
Let's move to and see how this builds into one complete picture. This overview brilliantly synthesizes the entire perspective shift we've been talking about. Instead of just seeing things falling away, dealing with pressure, or agonizing over waiting, you can step back and recognize that God is actually clearing your path, expanding your capacity, aligning your heart, building your strength, and deepening your roots. When you start viewing your current struggles through this specific lens, the entire narrative of your life completely changes. And the core message here is just profoundly reassuring. On the other side of preparation, you will look back and see that every single step was purposeful. It's really all about trusting that the painful, confusing puzzle pieces you're holding right now will absolutely make sense when the picture is finally finished. So it might be time to boldly declare over your own life right now, God is preparing me.
To anchor this entire concept, we look at this incredibly famous scriptural promise from Jeremiah. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. If you are in the thick of a preparation season today, this is the thought you really need to hold tightly onto. Because the destination you are being taken to, it is worth every single hard season required to get there.
We've explored the profound difference between feeling punished and being prepared today. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If this season isn't punishment, but preparation, what beautiful future is God getting you ready for right now? Take a moment to just sit with that and reflect. Let it spark your curiosity and renew your hope as you navigate whatever season you're currently in. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.